Barack Obama said this the other day on CBS Morning News about people control. I mean, gun control.
What is the radical solution? And do you believe there is a larger issue at hand that causes fractures among us in this country?
We are unique among advanced, developed nations in tolerating, on a routine basis, gun violence in the form of shootings, mass shootings, suicides.
Now, some would argue that gun violence is a crafty euphemism to get the simple-minded to be afraid of inanimate objects. They would call such euphemisms propaganda. And a synonym for propaganda is deception or lies. Others would argue that it's off the charts hypocritical for any representative of the world's largest death cult, and by death cult they mean government death cult, because they are responsible for the deaths of over 250 million of their own people in the last century alone. Anyway, they contend that it's extremely hypocritical for representatives of government like Obama to pretend to care about the very people that they want to strip unalienable rights away from. Because what they're saying is, we want to take away a tool you could use to protect yourself
for your protection.
And they like to compare us to another nation whose leaders saw fit to confiscate the personal protection devices of all the people in their neck of the woods.
In Australia, you had one mass shooting 50 years ago, and they said, oh, we're not doing that anymore. That is normally how you would expect a society to respond when your children are at risk.
People are dying. Children are at risk. Madmen are using guns to harm people. I have an idea. Let's create laws that'll make innocent gun owners criminals in the eyes of the state.
Great idea, Skippy.
Why is it so hard for us to do that?
Look, I think somehow, and there are a lot of historical reasons for this, gun ownership in this country became an ideological issue and a partisan issue in ways that it shouldn't be.
Maybe gun ownership is a safety issue. And maybe, just maybe, over 200,000 women every single year use a personal protection device to keep themselves from getting kidnapped, raped, abused, and murdered. And maybe, just maybe, families use firearms to protect their loved ones, including their children.
It has become sort of a proxy for arguments about our culture wars. Instead of thinking about it in a very pragmatic way, we end up really arguing about identity and emotion and all kinds of stuff that does not have to do with keeping our children safe.
Instead of thinking about it in a very pragmatic way.
How's this for gun owner pragmatism? Who do even the anti-gunners call when there's a mass shooting?
Yes, Alex. I'd like to take men with guns for 200.
Men with guns.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, pragmatically speaking, you wouldn't have to wait for men with guns to arrive if you were a man or a woman who already owned a gun and knew how to use it. So, pragmatically speaking again, the only thing that will stop a bad man with a gun is you. Can't get any more pragmatic, sensible, or reasonable than that. But Barack Obama and mainstream media don't want you to have that option.
Even in the absence of action at the federal level, you are still seeing communities able to reduce violence by dealing with not just access to guns, but just as importantly, making sure that the young people in these communities feel as if they've got somebody who's paying attention to them.
Oh, you mean highly restrictive, high crime areas like Chirac, LA, Detroit, Cleveland, and old Baltimore over there?
We don't have room for cynicism and we can't give up.
Post-presidency, what about this country keeps you up at night?
The thing that I'm most worried about is the degree to which we now have a divided conversation. We may disagree on gun violence, in terms of what the best prescriptions are.
By the way, the best prescription to gun violence is a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun. And both the left and the right agree with this. If that weren't so, then nobody would be calling good guys with guns to stop bad guys with guns.
But we can't deny the data that says the United States has levels of gun violence that are 5, 10, 15 times more than other countries. So if we say that it's just a mental health problem, well, it's not like there aren't people with mental health problems in those other countries. What's the difference? This is probably the difference. Now, we can have a debate, but at least we've agreed on some facts.
But we can't deny the data.
We pretty much all know that not all data can be construed as facts. There's a lot of falsehood out there, but there is one fact that remains immutable. You have the right to own a personal protection device, and nobody's got a right to infringe on your right to own a personal protection device. Obama and others want to take your guns away like they did to the now defenseless people of Australia. That means he wants to take guns away from minorities. Why do I say this? Check out this ABC News article from November 2021. What's behind the rise in gun ownership for people of color? Black, Asian, and Latino people are buying guns more than before. This report is part of a Rethinking Gun Violence, an ABC News series examining the level of gun violence in the U.S. and what can be done about it. After months of anti-Asian hate incidents making headlines across the United States, Clyde, a 69-year-old Japanese American living in Northern California, grew afraid. Stories of assault, verbal attacks, and deadly shootings against Asians in the Bay Area put him and his wife on edge. He feared an assailant may see them as perfect victims for an attack. Clyde said, "Age is beginning to make me one of those easy targets," which is why he said he bought his first handgun. Clyde, who is now a member of the Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association, said, "I don't go out looking for trouble, but to ignore the inconvenient truth that Asians are targets isn't going to stop the attacks." Clyde is one of many people of color who purchased a legal, whatever that means, handgun last year. The National Shooting Sports Foundation, a national trade association in the firearms industry, says that when comparing 2019 to 2020, there was a 58.2% increase in gun purchases among Black people, a 43% increase with Asians, and 49% increase among Latinos. And it estimated that over 40% of gun sales overall were first-time gun buyers. There are many factors motivating new purchases among people of color. Some buyers who spoke with ABC News cited concerns about safety in the U.S., while others claim that pro-gun outreach by various gun advocacy groups is behind the rush to arm oneself. The National African American Gun Owners Association told ABC News that the group has seen a surge in membership, averaging about 1,000 new members every month. Nikki Duncan, a Black woman who is a member of the NAAGOA and the Strong Arms Gun Club, says these groups have helped her and others get acquainted with their guns and learn safety practices among those who understand the needs and nuances of different racial or ethnic groups. So the bottom line is that Obama wants to infringe on the rights of minorities to own guns. And you and I want minorities to be armed. So I just want to know one thing. Who's the racist here? Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel, grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design. You can put it on any shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case, whatever you want, and I will see you in the next video.